I watched an interview with Wladimir Klitschko today, and he was talking about his up-and-coming fight with Alex Leapai. And there was a brief segment there, or part of the interview, with Wladimir Klitschko's manager, Bert Bonter. And he was talking about the mandatory challenges for the WBO. And obviously, Leapai is the mandatory at the moment. And I guess the interviewer must have asked him about the winner of Chisora against Fury. And he says, well, the winner of Chisora against Fury will be the mandatory, but we won't have to face that guy for a year and a half. Now, I'm not fully versed up on the WBO rules, but my understanding was that he would have to face his next mandatory a year after his last mandatory, from my understanding, or a year after his last scheduled mandatory. So maybe he's taking this mandatory against Leapai early, because you don't have to wait a year or whatever to take your mandatory. You can take it whenever you want, but it has to be taken within a certain time frame. So maybe he's taking it early, and therefore he's getting a year and a half until his next one. I don't know. But I found that disturbing to hear Bert Bonter talk about, well, we don't have to face the winner of Chisora Fury for a year and a half. And my feeling, not just because of what Bert Bonter said, but my feeling in general is that Wladimir Klitschko will not face Tyson Fury or Derek Chisora. He won't face the winner anyway. I don't think he'll face the winner. If the winner of that fight looks good, I don't think he'll face the winner. And there are several reasons. One, because he wants the WBC belt. He wants to consolidate all the belts, and I think once he's consolidated the belts, he might have one or two more fights, and then he'll retire. Okay? That's his mission right now. I don't think he cares about mandatories or fighting Fury or Chisora. I don't think he cares about none of that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I honestly feel like, again, especially if the Chisora Fury winner looks good, I honestly feel like he don't want to take that kind of risk. That he wants to retire without taking a loss, and he's going to look for the easiest fights for the biggest money. That's what he's going to look for. And another reason is because Bert Bonter and Klitschko himself, but especially Bert Bonter, don't like Fury or Chisora. Bert Bonter had said previously, I think after Hay and Chisora had the brawl in Germany, that he don't want to work with British fighters again because he doesn't like the way they behave, their loudmouth and all this kind of stuff. So there are several reasons, and most of you will remember that Wladimir Klitschko pulled out twice of from fights with Derek Chisora. Pulled out of 2 fights with Chisora previously. And if you believe people like Steve Bunce, and it's not often I hear, I take things that Steve Bunce says too seriously, but Steve Bunce claims that Manny Stewart, I think it was Steve Bunce, I'm pretty sure it was, he said that Manny Stewart was very worried about Wladimir fighting Derek Chisora and decided to pull him out of the fight rather than Wladimir having a legitimate injury. That's what Steve Bunce claims. And there are several other people who also claim the same thing, that Wladimir Klitschko, in fact, was pulled out of the Chisora fights because Manny Stewart felt it was too risky. He didn't want the fight. He felt that Chisora was... And Manny Stewart's a very good judge of character. That's another thing. Or he was a very good judge of character. R.I.P. Manny Stewart. He was a very good judge of character. He understood the psychology of fighters. And similar to Teddy Atlas also understood the psychology of fighters. When Teddy Atlas was interviewed before Chisora fought Vitali, a lot of people at the time, because I did a prediction video on it, a lot of people at the time felt that Chisora would fall apart and get blasted out in a couple of rounds. I didn't. I thought that Chisora was going to give Vitali a pretty tough fight and it would go a lot of rounds. But the common consensus amongst the YouTube boxing community and most people that comment on these videos was that Chisora was just going to get blasted out easy and he was going to freeze on the big stage. But Teddy Atlas and Manny Stewart, these guys were like, nah, he's not. Chisora is not, even though he's naive, not naive, even though he's inexperienced, he's not mentally as weak. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, or he's much mentally stronger than a fighter of his little experience, of such little experience, would be going in to fight Vitaly Klitschko. Okay, I think he only had 16 or 17 fights by the time he fought Vitaly. Most guys at that stage of their career wouldn't be mentally strong enough to go in there and put on the kind of performance that Derek put on. Even though he lost, mentally he was very strong in the fight and he tried his best. Now Manny Stewart knew that. He knew from very early on that Derek Chisora was one of them kind of guys that he's not intimidated. And because of that, people believe, from talking to Manny or whatever other sources they have, that Manny was the one who actually decided that the plug had to be pulled on Wladimir fighting Derek. It was too dangerous. And me personally, I don't believe the injuries that Wladimir Klitschko apparently sustained were genuine. I think if he wants to get a doctor or a scan or a fake scan or anything like that, he's got more than enough money to pay whatever doctor he wants to pay to give him any kind of scan. Okay, me personally, I don't believe that Wladimir pulling out of those 2 fights with Chisora was genuine. I believe that was some bullshit. Okay, I'm not saying that Chisora would beat Wladimir. I actually think Wladimir would beat Chisora, especially if he's allowed to lean all over Chisora the way he did Povetkin. I think he would beat Chisora. I think he'd probably knock him out. But nevertheless, I do think that him pulling out of those 2 fights with Derek was some shenanigans. I don't think that was a genuine injury at all. So, yeah, those are my reasons. I know this video is slightly more long-winded than I wanted it to be, but those are the reasons why I don't think that Wladimir Klitschko will ever fight Chisora or Fury. I don't think it's ever going to happen. As much as I would like to see it, because both of those guys, say what you want about them, they're going to come to win. They ain't going to be intimidated, and they're going to try and put it on Wladimir. They ain't going to come there, smiling and, acting like they're happy just to get the opportunity. No, they're going to come there with an attitude. Okay? And they're going to try and put it on Wladimir and have no respect for him. And that's the attitude that you need to have if you actually hope to win a fight against Wladimir Klitschko. Okay? You have to go there and not respect him to the point where you're intimidated by him in the ring. You have to go there and go get him. Yeah, and that's what both of those guys would do if they got in the ring with Wladimir. And there's not too many guys out there that have that kind of heart and that kind of belief to do that. So I'll be disappointed if you don't fight them, but especially after hearing what Bert Bonta said in this interview, and I'll leave a link to the interview in the description below, especially after hearing what Bert Bonta said, I don't think Wladimir is ever going to fight any of them 2 guys. We'll see if he fights Kubrat Pulev. I'm not even sure if he'll fight Pulev. I think there's a better chance of him fighting Pulev than fighting Fury or Chisora, but I'm not even sure about the Pulev fight, Possible, maybe it'll happen later on this year, or he'll get stripped, but when it comes to the Klitschkos, I mean, not just the Klitschkos, but when it comes to these big superstars in boxing, they're pretty much a law unto themselves when it comes to the governing bodies. The governing bodies, the sanctioning bodies, they rewrite the rules for certain fighters and they let them do whatever they want. And the Klitschkos are definitely 2 fighters who fall into that category. Canelo Alvarez is another one. Even Floyd Mayweather, to a certain extent, is allowed to get away with a lot of stuff that other less well-known or less lucrative world champions don't get away with. So anyway, that's just my thoughts, man. Drop your comments below. Let me know how you feel about this. Do you think the Fury Chisora winner will ever get a shot at Wladimir Klitschko? I certainly hope, but I don't think they will. Yeah, so drop your comments below. This is Hatman. I'm out.